recorded to the cloud. There it goes. We're recording. I'm letting everybody in.
Excellent.
Well, it was. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and in some cases, good evening, just depending on where you are on our big, beautiful planet. We're happy to have you joining us today. We'll give a few minutes for everybody to join, and before we kick off our community conversation with Sean Bryant. In the meantime, just to kind of get a figure of where we're at, post in the chat where you're tuning in from today. It'd be kind of fun to see who's the farthest away and just kind of a distribution of people. I am in Cold Bend, Oregon. Chris, beautiful, breezy Sanford, Michigan. Puyallup, I love that place. Tiana, Manchester, New Hampshire, not England. Sean?
Yep, I'm in, well, slightly dull Shropshire. It's very dark outside at the moment.
Baltimore, sweet. Getting good geographical. Let's see here. A little bit more to build here. Just a big build up. As you're joining, oh, there's Tom Richardson. There's a regular. We'll give a personal greeting. Welcome, Tom. Give us a shout out in the chat where you're joining in from today. Welcome, you're a regular. All right. Well, I think we can probably begin.
Okay.
North of Seattle. That's right. Yeah, another Pacific Northwester. We're dominating here, West Coasters. Welcome to today's community conversation. My name is Sean Hurley, and I'll be your community host. We're joined by the talented and scarred Sean Bryant, and we're going to be talking AutoCAD, going to mobile with AutoCAD. Let's kick off today's community conversation. Your lines are muted to prevent background noise. If you have any questions, either raise your hand and we'll call on you. That's the little Zoom hand, or post in the chat and we'll get to you as we can when we pause. This session will be recorded and a link to the recording will be emailed to all registrants. And it's also posted on the session page. So if you want to tell somebody, hey, you should check this out. Sean had some great tips in there. Just point to the link of the session page. So good morning, Tom. All right, next. Safe harbor statement. This is just, make your decisions on purchasing product based on how the product is today. Any forward-looking statements, don't make your purchasing decisions based on that. Also, Sean Bryant is not an Autodesk employee. Love him to be an employee, but any of his opinions are his. So, missed a slide in there. Let me just go over it real quick here. The communication. This is a conversation, so let's keep it as a conversation. We're going to be learning some great things, and feel free to ask your questions and add to it. So let's let it go. I'm Sean Hurley. I'm the engagement manager for the Autodesk community. I'm a geeky technologist based in Bend, Oregon. Mr. Bryant.
And yeah, I'm Sean Bryant. I'm the director and owner of CAD-FM Consultants, have been for the last 20 years this year, would you believe? And I'm an AutoCAD influencer and a devoted scarf wearer, as Chris Benner will verify. I'm currently based in Shropshire in the UK, kind of in between homes, but that's a long story which I won't bore you with today. Okay, shall we crack on?
Let me just. We had one slide that was missing that talked about what the community conversations are. I just level set that. These community conversations provide opportunities for engineers, designers, artists, and makers to meet in a safe virtual setting to share expertise, to get to know leaders in your field and grow your community network. They're always supported by the Autodesk community managers to help guide the conversation and to feed important insights back from the community to Autodesk and to support participants in getting connected to the expertise you need. Now, as Sean's going to start, I'm going to post you the links about the community conversations, and then let's roll. Let's rock.
Okay. So just so you're all aware, for those of you that haven't attended the previous community conversations that I presented, there are 2 previous parts to this. This is part 3 of 4, and we're talking about going mobile with AutoCAD. So this particular session, part 3, we're talking about how we can collaborate with the AutoCAD web app. Now, the AutoCAD web app is part of your AutoCAD subscription. So if you're running AutoCAD or AutoCAD LT, you will have access to the web app and also the mobile app. So the previous 2 sessions kind of go through that and how you set it all up and use your Autodesk ID to log into the web app and the mobile app, and how you can save those drawings to the cloud using the web and mobile folders in AutoCAD. I'm going to touch on that ever so slightly at the beginning, but obviously please go back and kind of check out part 2 and part 1 so that you're kind of up to speed. But what we're going to look at first today is how we update our DWG files in the cloud. So what you've got to think about is we've used our Autodesk ID. We're logged into AutoCAD, the AutoCAD desktop app. We can also gain access to the web app and the mobile app. And what we can do there is gain access to the web and mobile folders in AutoCAD. So just to give you a quick heads up onto where all these things are in AutoCAD in your desktop app. So in your Start tab, when you first boot up AutoCAD, obviously with AutoCAD 2022, it's all subscription. So you have to be logged in anyway using your Autodesk ID. So you'll notice in the Start tab there, you can see, welcome, Sean. There's my email address. It's letting me know that I'm logged in using my Autodesk ID. It's also located in the info bar, top right in your AutoCAD desktop window. So you can see there, you've got my sort of little blue head and shoulders, and you can see my username there. And when I click on that drop down, I can go in and look at my account details. I can check out my licenses. I can also check out any future purchasing options. I might want to buy more software. And obviously I can sign out and quit if I want to as well. And access-wise, what that gives you in the quick access toolbar is the access to these AutoCAD web and mobile folders. And you can see the icons there on the quick access toolbar. They kind of look a little bit like a mobile phone, or as the Americans say, a cell phone. And you've kind of got an open symbol and a little blue arrow there. The open symbol, you're opening from the web and mobile. The little blue arrow symbol, you're saving to web and mobile. So let's break that down a little bit. And again, I'm kind of recapping a little on what we did in the last session. I'm just doing a couple of slides here to make sure that you're aware of how this technology works. So you're in the quick access toolbar. You've got 2 commands available to you. That's what those icons are for. Save to web and mobile, open from web and mobile. And if you haven't used them before with your AutoCAD desktop, you will need to install a little driver. It takes about 30 seconds. So save to web mobile, that particular command, it saves the DWG to the allocated cloud space provided with your Autodesk ID or subscription. So as soon as you are using your Autodesk ID with your AutoCAD subscription, you've got this space available to you. You can save to there anytime. And obviously vice versa, you can open from web mobile, which means you can go to those web and mobile folders and open files as well. But the best bit is, because it's in the cloud, you've then got the synchronization with AutoCAD Web and AutoCAD Mobile. So you're literally, just by using these 2 commands, making your drawings mobile. You're taking your AutoCAD technology mobile. So there's Save to AutoCAD Web and Mobile. That's the little dialog box that pops up when you save. And there's the open there. They look remarkably like any other dialog box where you're opening and saving. The whole idea is that you're just going to the appropriate folder in the cloud instead of on your hard drive or on your server drive. So once we've done that and we're working in AutoCAD with our drawings, we're sitting at our desk like I am now, and I'm using my AutoCAD desktop app, the usual AutoCAD. And what I want to do is talk about how we can add a trace to a drawing file. So I've worked on my desktop with my AutoCAD desktop, and I've saved my drawing to the web and mobile folders. So now I'm out and about, I'm mobile, and I might have something like an iPad Pro, or let's say I'll go to an internet cafe and I think, oh, I didn't change what I wanted to change on that drawing. So you can just jump into a browser and use AutoCAD Web because you've saved your drawing to the web and mobile folders. You just need a browser. Now, the two main browsers that I recommend for the web app are Google Chrome and the latest Microsoft Edge Chromium. Don't go for the old Microsoft Edge. It won't work on that one. But the idea is that the Chromium technology allows you to run an AutoCAD application in a browser. So the benefit you've got there is you just jump to the appropriate URL, which is web.autocad.com, use your Autodesk ID to sign in, and you can start adding what they call traces to a drawing file. Now, the trace technology came in with AutoCAD 2022. So we're going to be logged in using our Autodesk ID, and there's the URL in big red text for you, web.autocad.com, can't miss it. So you're going to go to there and you're going to sign in. So as soon as you've signed in, you then have access to the AutoCAD web and mobile folders. Now, the lovely thing about the web and mobile apps is they also allow you to work with other cloud providers. So I use a lot of OneDrive. So you can see I've got OneDrive listed there as well. So I can go to my OneDrive account if I want to. I'm going to use the web and mobile folders this time though. So you can see we've got all different storage providers. You've got things like Google Drive, Box, Dropbox, and so on. But like I said, we're staying with AutoCAD web and mobile. It's just easier from a transition viewpoint for me when I'm presenting and so on. And there's my community conversations folder. So I've logged into the web app, and this is the screen I get when I first log in. There's my folder. I go to that folder and I open up my drawing. So I've opened up the drawing, and you can see at the top of the screen there, AutoCAD web and mobile, community conversations going mobile with AutoCAD, and there's my file name with the DWG suffix. Now, just before we go any further, going back to the safe harbor statement, you'll notice that my AutoCAD web app is a beta version. I'm on the beta testing team. So as per what the safe harbor statement says, don't base your purchasing decisions on what you might see here. Some of it might be new, some of it might not actually be in the product just yet. So these traces they're part of the web app interface. So you'll notice there's a really nice bunch of icons down the left-hand side of the screen. So you've got their properties, layers, blocks, XREFs, and that one at the bottom there is traces. So when I click on a trace there, I can add a new trace. And this is that new trace functionality. So what I can do there is I can add some elements to that trace just by using the regular drafting tools in the web app. So you'll notice there's the traces, there's my new trace, and it's just given it a number at this point. A bit like a DWG file, a new DWG file in the desktop app, it's just called trace2 right now. So that was the second trace that I opened when I created that graphic. And then what I'm doing is while I'm in the trace interface, I'm adding information to this particular drawing it's markup stuff, you can see what I've done there is I've done a really simple markup. I've put a revision cloud in, and I've said check room numbers for occupancy. Now, something you might notice there is we're using a really, really funky font for that text. When you're working in the web app, it breaks it down to the simplex font. And the reason for that is it just allows you to use the browser more effectively. If we had to use all the TrueType fonts, it would really slow the app down. So we want to make sure that it's just a nice simple font so that the browser app can cope with it. But as you can see there, we've added the trace elements, the text, the revision cloud. And what we're going to do is basically make sure that that trace is in the drawing. So we check our changes. So we check our revision cloud, check our text, make sure of the appropriate data in the trace, because that will apply to only this particular trace. Now you'll notice what I've done there is I've renamed the trace as well. It's called room numbers now. And all you've got to do is right click over that trace in the list in the web app and rename it. So I've renamed it as room numbers, which is a unique ID. Obviously it's a pretty basic ID, but you could obviously number these. They could be revisions. You could have numbers. You could alphabetize it as well. And then what you do is you add all the information to the trace. You can then close the trace by, again, right-clicking and selecting close. And if you want to, you can have more than one trace by clicking on the new trace option there, again, in that little area in the traces box in the web app. Now, what you want to do here is make sure that once you've closed these traces and gone back to the regular view of the drawing, if you look over to the sort of right-hand part of the trace bit there, just on that graphic, you can see a little tick. You would now tick to close the trace, and then you would save the drawing in the normal way in the web app. You've got save and save as, just like you have obviously in the desktop app and the mobile app as well. So how do we then use that trace in the desktop app when we get back to the office? We've been out, we've done all our changes, we've been out on site, we've measured everything up. One of the major benefits of all of this, obviously, is you don't have to think about taking paper with you anywhere. The benefit is that DWG is mobile, it's electronic, it's in the cloud. But how do I use a trace when I'm back with AutoCAD on the desktop in the office, all nice and cozy after spending a day out on site where it's rather cold? So I'm back in the office with that nice warm cup of coffee. So here's the AutoCAD desktop app again. So what we do is we open up the DWG file like you do normally, but you go and look in the web and mobile folders or the cloud provider where you saved it. So you've done a save in the web app, and that has saved it to either the web and mobile folders or something like OneDrive. You then go to the Collaborate tab in the desktop app and you open up the Traces palette. Now, I must stress this is a 2022 function. It came in with AutoCAD 2022. So you open the Traces palette, which pops up as a palette like every other palette does in AutoCAD, and you can locate the trace from that saved drawing that you just opened from the web and mobile folders that you created in the web app. So there's my room numbers trace sitting quite happily off of the Collaborate tab. There's the Traces palette. And I just locate my trace in that list in the palette. It's that quick and easy. And the lovely thing is this is all saved in the drawing when you're making the changes in the cloud. So the benefit you've got as well, if you think about it, if you've got somebody out on site working on a drawing, using the web app, using the mobile app, those traces can be applied and saved, and then somebody back in the office can open up that saved file and check all the traces and update the drawing accordingly that way, if you need to centralize it. So what we can do now is select the trace. So there it is in the Traces palette, and you'll then see exactly the same information that we had in the web app. So the trace will display. Now, like I said, mine's really basic. It's a revision cloud and a piece of text. But you could actually add geometry here as well. There's nothing to stop you. It is all AutoCAD object driven. So I could draw new things on the drawing as part of the trace. It doesn't have to be a revision cloud and a note. It could be new desks. It could be new chairs. And you could easily update this drawing accordingly by bringing in blocks in the web app, perhaps. So you might be changing the furniture up a bit. And that trace displays, and it's highlighted in the DWG file in the desktop app. You would then update the drawing, close the trace. So can you see there the little green tick? Once you're done, you just hit that little green tick and you then close the trace. It's that quick and easy. Now, we can also select the trace again. There's the room numbers trace. And once we're done and we're back in the drawing, if you want to remove the trace, it's just a right click again and select delete on that little menu that appears. And again, now you would save the drawing back to the web and mobile folders or the cloud. Can you see how this is going to develop a really cool, like revision trail, audit trail of your drawings? Now, obviously I haven't recommended any sort of naming philosophies or anything like that. But if you've got a decent file naming philosophy with all of your drawings, you can see how these traces can be stored as like an audit list, like revision 1, revision 2, revision 3, and so on. So what we've done there is we've worked in the web app while we've been mobile. We've made some changes, added a trace to highlight the changes. We've then saved that trace to the drawing in the web app. What we've then done is gone back to base, opened the same drawing that was saved to the web and mobile folders in the desktop app. The traces are applicable there as well by opening the Traces palette. We've made the necessary changes from what we've seen in the trace, and we then removed the trace from the drawing and saved it back to the cloud. So we're now saving back to the web and mobile cloud kind of workflow. So We check the updates to the drawing. Always, always, always sanity check that all is complete. I can't stress that enough. The amount of times that somebody has kind of clicked on save on a drawing, shipped it out to the client, and at like 5 p.m. on a Friday, and then Monday morning, it's like, what is this? What have you done to my drawing? It happens. So sanity check everything and save the file. But that's where you're using that save to web mobile command to save to web and mobile or the cloud. Now, you wouldn't use save to web mobile if you were saving to OneDrive, for example. You would just save it to a OneDrive folder using Windows. It's that quick and easy. But the idea is that you're saving there using that little icon in the quick access toolbar, and you're saving the file to your web and mobile folders in this particular case. So there's the file. You can see the date it was modified. Hit save in the little dialog box, and we're done. Then, next step along, we go back to the web app. We might be out on site again, and we open the revised DWG file. We go to the traces, and you can see in this particular case that the drawing has been updated and the trace has been deleted because there's no traces in the drawing in the web app in this particular case. So it's that quick and easy. It really is. And, you can do it in the same time I've just gone through it in this particular slide deck for the presentation. So there's the drawing again, the DWG file, but this time there's no traces there. And as you can see, no traces in the drawing. I can create a new trace if I want to. Now, what I want to do just quickly, this is a little bit of a quote from my Autodesk University 2021 class on going mobile with AutoCAD. And what I'm going to do just after this slide is I'll jump into the AutoCAD desktop app and the web app for literally 10, 15 minutes kind of idea before we jump into like Q&A and questions and things. And what I want to just get across here is that the mobile technology, when you combine that with things like the web app and the mobile app, it gives you incredible mobility. And that mobility utilizes that core AutoCAD technology. And you'll see that in a moment when I show you the web app and I jump into AutoCAD and so on, because I want to show you how these workflows are pretty much seamless. And the benefit you've got there, you don't have to be the one person. You could have somebody, like I said, working on the desktop, somebody out on site in the web app, in the mobile app. They could be making changes and adding traces to the drawings out on site. You are then seeing those real time when they save the drawings, and you can automatically work on those changes. Now, when I was a CAD manager, we used to literally have to print off the drawings, put them in a plastic tube with the strap. I'm sure you all remember those. Take them out on site, hold them down on the car bonnet or the hood, as you guys call it, and hold it down with bricks and get a red pen out and mark the drawing up. I can now just turn up on site with an iPad. That's it. And my little Apple Pencil, make the necessary changes, add the traces. Thank you very much. That goes straight back to the office in the safe drawing. So you've got that seamless workflow there, and it allows you to collaborate, not just with your CAD team, but you could be working with stakeholders on a project. You could even be talking to the client as well. And you'll see why in a moment when I show you how you can share those files from the web app and from the desktop app as well. So you've got an incredible amount of flexibility and the ability, and more importantly, the mobility to make anything anywhere. So that's my little quote from Autodesk University 2021. That's from one of my slides in the presentation. So let me just stop that share there with the PowerPoint slideshow. And what I'll do now is I'll just come out of PowerPoint for a moment. Just come out of there. Oh, I love Zoom. It's so much fun. I'm just going to get the web app up and running for you. Make sure I log in. The reason I stopped the share is just purely you don't want to watch me logging in or anything. It's kind of mundane. So let's get that up and running. So what I'm doing here is I'm literally jumping to web.autocad.com and logging in, putting in my username and password as you do with your Autodesk ID. So you can hear me typing away and logging in. So I'm just logging in there. That can log in quite happily now, as it does. And I'm also going to get AutoCAD up and running as well. Now, when we get all this up and running like this, what will happen is I'm going to jump into the AutoCAD desktop first, because I want to make a few changes there and just make sure everything is how I want it to be. And then I'm going to save that to the web and mobile folders. So I'm just going to make sure that my drawing is open he says. There we go. It's always good when the technology works.
You're doing great. You can just tell us your password though. That's fine.
Yeah, you go and log into my account and cause chaos. Okay, so I'm now going to jump back into Zoom and let's make sure that we share the appropriate screen. There we go. Okay, so I'm hoping now that you can see AutoCAD. And what I've got, this is quite a standard floor plan that I use for a lot of training that I do. You may have seen me on LinkedIn with a lot of the AutoCAD online learning content over on LinkedIn Learning as well. And this tends to be a pretty standard drawing that I use for a lot of the AutoCAD stuff. So what we've got here, standard floor plan, grids, dimensions, etc. I'm going to zoom in on this little area here. So we've got a couple of small conference rooms. We've got EL5 and EL4. Now, we don't know if those are the appropriate room numbers or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that I'm zoomed in on that area there. And then I'm going to go up to the little save to web mobile there. You can see that the tooltip pops up on the quick access toolbar. Now I've got access to that because over here, top right, you can see that I'm logged into my Autodesk account. And that's what I said about earlier in the presentation is obviously using AutoCAD 2022, you've got to be logged in with your Autodesk ID anyway to get into the software. So I'm just going to quickly save that. So I hit save to web mobile. And I make sure this drawing goes into my folder in the web and mobile folders. So you can see dialog box is saying save to AutoCAD web and mobile, save to AutoCAD web and mobile, and there's my community conversations subfolder. I'm just going to save over the existing drawing in there. So it'll prompt me for a replace like so, and yes to that. That's absolutely fine. So that's now saved on my desktop. So I pack everything up, put my iPad in my bag, or you might even take one of the smaller form factor laptops with you as well. There's plenty of those out there now as well. So you might have something like an iPad Pro, which is a great tool to use both AutoCAD Web and AutoCAD Mobile. So drawing is saved. I'm just going to stop sharing now and I'll jump into the web app now. This is why I do this, so I can jump in and out of each one. So I'm going to jump to that one. And surprise, surprise, you might recognize that screen from the slides a moment ago. I'm now in the AutoCAD web app and you can see that up here. There's the URL like so. We've got web.autocad.com. And when you log in, it then says acad/me, as in me, I'm logged in. And there's AutoCAD web and mobile. There's my OneDrive link there. So if I go there, there's all my folders on my OneDrive, for example. So I'm going to go to my community conversations going mobile with AutoCAD folder. Now, this is the drawing I've literally just saved in the desktop app. So you can see there, if you look at the date, it's today's date, and I saved that at about 4:28 p.m. UK time. So all I've got to do now, click on the link, and that'll load up. Now, bear in mind, we are using the power of the modern internet. I've got a reasonably quick connection here in my office based at home right now. But if you're using something like a cell phone signal for your internet, this could take a little bit longer to load. And we are restrained by that kind of technology to a certain point. But the one thing I will say, we've got the advent of 5G and all that kind of stuff kicking in. It's making everything more mobile and more accessible. And that's what I love about this technology, and what I love about what Autodesk are doing is they're making everything really accessible. So you can see there, I don't know if you can see the little sort of command line loading up and things just sort of faded in the background there as well. So I'm now in the web app, and surprise, surprise, I'm now actually zoomed in exactly where I was in the desktop app when I saved the drawing. So I'm in my model tab. You'll notice I've also got my layout tab. So there's my layout tab there. If I zoom out slightly, I'm using the same core AutoCAD technology. There's pan, and if I roll up and down on the wheel of the mouse, I can zoom in and out like so. So I'm going to jump back into the model tab, which is where you should be when you're doing your design work. And we were talking about obviously making the changes and putting a trace on the drawing so that people can see those changes that have been made. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make some changes to the text. So I'm going to zoom in a bit. Again, as I always say in all my AutoCAD training courses, zoom is there for a reason. Don't squint at your screen. There's the text. I click on the text like so, and I can edit that if I want to. I can double click on it. And there's the text there. Now the interface is obviously different to the desktop app. That's just the way the browser works. So instead of getting like your little ribbon at the top of the screen where it goes into the text editor, what we've got here is EL5. So these are meeting rooms, these are conference rooms. So what I'm going to change it to is CR5, conference room 5. And I'll change the text type there. Let's go for something like 150, just round it up. Click on the little tick, and there's CR5. So I've made a change to that particular drawing. Let's do the same with this bit of text here. Again, just a double click, same old technology, he says. Let me just hit escape a few times there. I think it was still in the command. No, it's not liking me. Okay, I'll leave that one for now. I think that might be just my browser playing up a little bit there. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that one for now. But as you can see, I've made a change to the drawing. That's the important bit. That's what I wanted to do. So that change has been made. I now go to traces here, like so. And like in the PowerPoint slideshow, we have no traces at the moment. So I click on New Trace, and you can see the screen changes quite dramatically. So what we're doing here is we're kind of getting, the only way I can describe it, if you've ever used a drawing board, it's a bit like putting an acetate sheet over an existing drawing so that you can add some traced information on top. It's literally that workflow, but electronically in a browser. It's very clever. And I love it. For me, as I was saying to Sean Hurley earlier, if I'd had this technology like 20 years ago when I was a CAD manager, wow, we would have been one of the most productive CAD departments on the planet. I think would have been great. So there's my trace. And as you can see, I've got a basic trace number 3 right now. But what I'll do first is I'm going to jump down to the Annotate tab in the web app. And there's my little revision cloud icon. So I click, come into the drawing area. As you do, I'm just going to go down to arc length. Now I can do that here by coming down to the command line and clicking. And I'm just going to change the arc length there to something like 250 millimeters. It's a metric millimeters drawing, and press enter. And then I'm going to select a rectangular revision cloud. So I'll click a point about here, drag the cloud over those 2 conference rooms and click again like so. Now, as you can see, I'm just placing AutoCAD objects in the trace. And this is what I love about this trace technology is you're not having to redline or mark up per se. What you're doing is you're actually marking up just using regular AutoCAD commands. So I can add a bit of text there. So there's the text command. It's multi-line text in the web app. So I'll pick a point just sort of there, drag the little rectangle down a bit so I've got a bit of space. And we'll change that height. We don't want 0.2 millimeters. Let's make that 200 high. And we'll pop in here something like check room numbers and IDs, like so. So it's a little tick there. And there's the text there, like so. And as you can see, it puts it in that little sort of simplexy type font because we're in the web app. You can obviously update that later in the desktop app to any known sort of text styles and fonts that you might be using. So my trace is now in place. What I'm going to do is rename it. So I'll just right click here and rename. And that's when you can give it that unique ID. So I'll call it room numbers as per the slide deck that we had earlier. And just press enter. That's done. And what I love about that is it logs it. You can see the trace properties there. So it's a trace called room numbers. It's in the model space. It even logs which space it's in, model or layout tab. It's created by me. It's got a date and a time and when it was last saved. So here's the good bit though. I can now just literally click on that little tick there and that trace will now disappear. I'm now back in the model tab. And what I can do now is I'm just going to save the drawing. So what I'll do now is let's do a save as. So there's the little arrow, click on save as. And what this will allow me to do now is obviously I'll give this a different revision. So let's say it's Rev2. Like so, and I'll save that. So that's saving that file now quite happily to the web and mobile folders as revision 2. So that's in place. And if you look up at the top of the screen now, you can see there you go, there's the Rev2 suffix just there. So I've now saved that file. So what I can do now is literally log out of the web app and I can go and find this file in my desktop app. So what I'm going to do is jump over here. Just before I come out though, there's that share option I mentioned. while I remember. And you can share a link to this drawing at any time from the web app. You can send a view only link or an edit and save a copy link. There's the link there. And you can just copy the link and put it into an email and send it to somebody. It will allow them to view only via the web app or edit and save a copy via the web app, which is quite useful because it allows you to collaborate with other people who might not have a full desktop version of AutoCAD. Just close that for the moment. And what we'll do now is log out. So there's my little ugly mug top right. So I'll sign out of my account and there we go. We're back to the URL screen where you would obviously go and log in to the the web app. I'll just stop the share again. And again, we're going to share my AutoCAD screen. So we're going back into the AutoCAD desktop now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to close this file because that's the old one. I don't want that one anymore. So I'll just click on close, get rid of that one. And we'll go up to the icon here where I can open from web and mobile. So I'm now back in the office, back at my desk using the desktop app. So there's my community conversations folder in the web and mobile folders. So I'm just going to click on open and surprise, surprise, there's my revision 2 drawing. And as you can see, it's dated, time tagged. So you can see it's the newer version because it's obviously Rev 2, but also you can see the time there, 16:35, 7 minutes after the drawing that I opened in the web app earlier. So let's open up Rev 2 like so. And again, this shouldn't take too long to open, I hope. Bearing in mind I'm on my desktop. So there's my desktop. You can see there's the change I made, CR5, like so. And now what I do is I just jump to the Collaborate tab, click on Traces palette, and there's my room numbers trace, like so. So I'll pop that over here. And when I select that trace, there we go. There's my Rev Cloud, and there's my check room numbers and IDs. So what I would do now is I don't need that trace open to check the room numbers and IDs. So I'll come out of the trace once I've checked the changes, and then I'll make the necessary changes like so. So let's change that one while we're here. So I'll do that in the desktop app. There we go. Let's just change that quickly to my CR4, which I tried to do in the web app earlier. There we go. That's better. So what I can do now is I can save that like so. So that is saving back to that web and mobile drawing just by clicking on save. I've done the room numbers trace, so I can right click on it and I can delete that one. It's finished. It's done. Now, it's saying now that there's no traces in the drawing, obviously, so I can close the traces palette. I will just do another save to make sure that I save that change where I've deleted the trace. But I've also obviously updated the room numbers and the IDs. So what I need to do now is jump back into the web app to see whether those changes have been made and whether that trace has been removed. So again, apologies, it's another stop share, but what I'm going to do is close the drawing as well to prove that there's no sort of, smoke and mirrors going on here. So that's done. And what I can do now is stop my share in Zoom. And again, share screen. There's my web app and I'll click on share there. There we go. And I'm going to sign in. So I've now gone out on site again, signing into the web app. And I'm not too worried about anybody seeing my email address because everybody knows it anyway. And fortunately, you don't get to see my passwords. There we go. So I'll log in again, and that will take me back. And you can see there, I'm logging in into the AutoCAD web and mobile folders. There's my community conversation subfolder. There's my revision 2. And you can see, look, the time date has changed again, where I've saved it in the desktop app. So if I go into the drawing again, it will take a few seconds to load up. This is all just due to internet bandwidth. Give it a few seconds to load. It shouldn't take too long. But at the end of the day, I'm just at the mercy of my internet speed, as we all are. So as you can see now, they've updated in the web app. There's my CR4 that I changed in the desktop app. And you can see there's no traces in the drawing. I've made the necessary changes in the desktop app, removed the trace, saved the drawing to the web and mobile folders in the cloud. I'm now back in the web app in the same drawing with those changes made. That's how quick and easy it is to work and collaborate with the web app using AutoCAD. So what I'll do now, I'll jump out of all the technology and we'll jump back to our PowerPoint. There we go. And hopefully you can now see my little quote that we talked about earlier. Excellent. So there you go. That's part 3. So I'll just click there for Mr. Hurley. There we go. I'd just like to say thank you for listening. Hopefully you've been queuing up some questions for me, guys. Or not, as the case may be.
It looks like you're so thorough. There's no questions.
Marvelous.
If
I like
anybody
that.
has any, feel free to ask them now. If not, we'll wrap up today's session with the 2 final slides. If you're looking for other ways to connect and engage in the Autodesk community, we have some resources for you. Let me get those for you.
Okay.
Still feel free for people to ask
There we
questions.
go.
All right, they're right there. All right, paste in links to all the different community resources. You can explore the many ways to connect the Autodesk community, including the global network of users in the Autodesk Group Network or industry-focused communities, helping your colleagues solve business challenges together, the Autodesk forums, of course, and staying connected with us on Twitter. Next, don't leave us. We have a survey too. It helps us form the future of this and how we can shape the content and what you'd like to see and hear. But thank you, and we always welcome your feedback. So let me give you that. It is a simple, painless little survey. Got some kudos there from Tom, Sean.
Excellent. Thanks, Tom. Always good to see you, or virtually, as the case may be.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Got a question, Sean.
Excellent.
If you make changes and the internet disconnect, do Autodesk and autosave on the so it's an autosave on the mobile. They're wondering if your internet was to go flaked.
Yeah, I got asked this. When was the last live AU? That was 2019, wasn't it? It was during my going mobile with AutoCAD class back then, and one of the newer features that was brought into the web app and the mobile app was that there is an offline mode. So again, there's no physical button for that, but what will happen is the changes that you make to that particular file will be there when you save. And then when you then connect to the internet again, it'll sync up to the cloud folders. And then when you go into something like the desktop app, you'll see that change when you open up the file. One of the things I would suggest is, for example, if you realize that the internet has gone, save the file immediately anyway, purely just as a safeguard to make sure that you're saved at that point, because then you're not going to lose any work. And then obviously keep working, save as per normal. And then what will happen is it'll kind of hold it in a cache. It caches the file. So I don't know if you're aware of how the internet works. When you go to a website, there is a cache. And what it does is it kind of stores bits of information about that page. And that's how they make this kind of offline thing work. I don't know how the Harry Potter wand waving stuff actually works in the background, but the offline is kind of there anyway. So the next time you sync up to the internet, that information will go up to the web and mobile folders or the OneDrive account or whatever you're using, and then sign in, obviously, with your Autodesk account into your desktop app, and you should get the synchronized file. Again, it's not a perfect system. The internet is still one of those things that can be annoying and can do things that you don't expect. I'll give you an example. I was just saying to Sean Hurley before we started today, we just got one of these new super duper streaming TVs, and we've just had loads of fun and games. One, remembering passwords for all our different channels, and 2, making sure that the internet talks to the TV. And the internet is one of those things where sometimes it can go wrong. So purely from a file management, CAD management perspective, when you're back at the office using your desktop PC with AutoCAD, make sure you've got backup saved always. I cannot stress that enough with drawings. Make sure you've got a backup somewhere always. Make sure in the desktop app, you've got your backup switched on, your auto save switched on to a remote location, all that kind of stuff. Because that way you know that no matter what you do with a file, it's going to be backed up somewhere.
Excellent. And Tom, we do hope to meet you in person again. Hopefully next AU. I mean, that'd be great. The hope. That's the hope. We have a question from Dave Wells, and this is a simple one. What software is needed to use Trace on the web? That would be the AutoCAD on the web.
Yeah, the AutoCAD web app or the AutoCAD mobile app.
Yep.
As I said, browser-wise for the web app, it's Google Chrome or the latest Chromium version of Microsoft Edge.
Excellent. Boy, they held those questions until the end. All right, Sean. Well, I appreciate you and your scarf as always, and thank you for everybody.
No worries.
Continue to stay connected in the Autodesk community, and we hope to see you in the next one. There'll be a part 4 on December 2nd.
Yep, that's part 4.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's many others. We actually have a Dynamo one coming up in an hour. So yeah,
Excellent.
definitely engage where you can and where you're interested. And I'll be posting this video by tomorrow in the session. Actually, tomorrow's a holiday. I will try and get that in today. If not today, it'll be Monday because I got a puppy and my life is really busy right now. So puppies. All right, sir. Thank you very much.
No worries at all.